So, welcome everyone to the second session of our interest meeting. We're very excited to be here. I'll just quickly introduce myself and then I'll introduce the rest of our executive team. And also we can have our analysts and VPs introduce themselves too. So my name is Ryan. I'm a junior in the business school. I'm a double majors in finance and philosophy. I'll be president of GIMG for this academic
I'm Liam McGuire. Nice to meet you all. Thanks all for coming. I'm a junior in Goizueta studying finance. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm the chief investment officer of the equity fund in GIMG. So we invest in U.S.-based stocks, anywhere from smaller companies to large cap, huge companies. So do a lot of cool analysis. Happy to answer questions, and I'll go through a little spiel on that later.
Nick?
Hey guys, my name's
Oh,
Ben.
actually, Ben's here. My bad.
Yeah, I just got here. Yeah, sorry about that. My name's Ben. I'm currently a junior. I'm studying accounting in a business school in QSS College. I'm the other CIO of the fixed income fund where we invest in bonds on the U.S. bond market.
Hi everyone, I'm Nick Trimble. I'm Vice President of Fixed Income. I'm a sophomore studying finance and economics. Thank you for coming tonight, and I'm happy to connect with anyone outside of this, but feel free to ask questions, and we look forward to meeting everyone.
Hey guys, my name is Aaron Thaler. I'm a sophomore currently applying to the B School, studying finance and also majoring in economics. Excited to be here, excited to meet you all, and as Nick said, happy to answer any questions.
Hey guys, my name is Pranav. I'm a sophomore. I'm also studying finance in the V School, and I'm a VP of the Fixed Income Fund. And as I said, happy to answer any questions.
Emily, can you introduce yourself?
Sure.
That echoes though.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Emily. I'm an analyst in the equity fund, and I'm a sophomore studying finance and economics. I'm happy to answer any questions like everyone said.
Yeah. All right. Well, like yesterday, we have 3 VPs for the fixed income fund and 1 analyst in the equity fund, but no worries. I think I forgot to mention I was equity fund analyst before I was president, and we'll stay in the equity fund there. Yeah. All right. So we can go ahead and get started. Again, this session is recorded, so if you know any of your friends or oh wait, Esther, thanks. I almost missed that. Go ahead.
Okay, that's cool. My name is Esther. I am the head of the public relations branch, so I'm the COO. My majors are English and creative writing, so I'm proof that you do not have to be in the business school to be in GIMG. So like everyone else, I'm happy to answer any questions. You can message me privately, or you can just contact me after this session.
Yeah, sorry about that. And so again, just back on what I was saying. Essentially, I know some people can't make the session, so if you know any of your friends who also can't make the session, this will be recorded. It's going to be a little delayed, obviously, because I have to upload it to YouTube. But once it's up there, we'll post it on our social media, and we'll post it like everywhere. And it'll also be on our website, so you guys can access it directly. All right. So just to quickly introduce our organization, GIMG stands for Goizueta Investment Management Group. We are a student managed investment fund at Emory, and we are the only student investment management group that manages a portion of Emory's endowment. We put our investments into 2 portfolios. One is our fixed income portfolio, and that invests in, again, fixed income securities, which Ben will touch on a little bit more. And the other is our equity portfolio, and we invest in long-only U.S. equities. So that means, for those of you guys who know what it means, we don't short, we don't do options, we invest only in long equities. In addition to kind of what we do in investing, we also have a lot of other things. For example, Esther here leads our PR group. Part of our PR group is actually community involvement. That's kind of where we volunteer. We go into a lot of high schools and teach financial literacy. But as you guys can imagine, that program is currently put on hold because of COVID. But once, if hopefully we get back to campus sometime in the next semester or to be honest, year, that's definitely something that's going to be required of our analysts. And so that's something that we're also passionate about. Just for a quick history into GIMG, we started in 2011 based on a donation of $100,000 by one of our most accomplished alumni. To this day, he still remains very active. We called him earlier and well, earlier this past summer. And so he's still definitely very much active. And in 2014, GIMG became an official member of Gazeta Finance Group, which is, again, our kind of umbrella organization right now. And in 2015, we successfully launched and raised our second fund, which is our current fixed income fund. So that's kind of a brief history to our organization. We really quickly, over the past couple of years, became one of the top clubs, not just in Gazeta, but at Emory as a whole. And we really provide, I'd say, unparalleled hands-on experience, especially when it comes to financial modeling, pitching, and again, professional development, which I know we've received a lot of emails recently about like having us edit, resumes and working on application and stock pages. Like being in GIMG will help you immensely with all of that. Just to give you guys a quick breakdown into what our fund structure looks like. So if you guys know, GIMG, underneath GFG, there's a bunch of organizations. There's GIMG, there's AIG, there's GWIF. The president of each serves on the GFG board, and I listen to directly the GFG board. The past president of GIMG, his name is Jack, one of my good friends and personal mentors. He is the kind of chairman of the GFG board, and so yeah, I'm directly going to be listening to him as well as the rest of the board. And our organizational fund structure works very similar. Ben and Liam are both in charge of our investment groups, our investment funds. And Esther is in charge of our PR branch. Now, I want to be clear here that my role as president, even though it's to coordinate everything, I still give Liam and Ben full autonomy over who they want to take for our fund, as well as what direction and what strategy they want to take for our fund moving forward. And so really, it's more of a collaborative experience. As opposed to a top-down one. And within our fund themselves, they start off with obviously the top being the chief investment officer. Underneath the chief investment officer, we have our VPs, and these are usually more experienced students as well as more experienced members. And underneath them are entry-level positions, which are analysts. One thing that I want to point out here is that for our VPs and our analysts, they're actually very young. The entire club is very young. Both Ben, Liam, Esther, and I are all juniors. And the VPs who are here are all sophomores, right? And so by the time that you're a sophomore, especially in an organization, you're pretty much being considered if you not have already made VP. And so that's something that we really want to emphasize, which is that our club is extremely young. So for all the freshmen applying, that's something that should be very encouraging. All right, so we're going to go ahead and dive into the investment branch, starting with the equity fund.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. And thank you all again for being here. Just to reintroduce myself, I'm Liam McGuire. I'm the Chief Investment Officer of the Equity Fund. So I know Ben goes through a little bit on kind of what fixed income is. I'm going to assume you all know what a stock is. We invest in U.S. listed stocks that are on the stock market, and we manage about $170,000. We look for stocks that we feel are currently undervalued on the market. We do a lot of fundamental analysis, a lot of financial modeling, a lot of research, and we'll teach you how to do all of that if you come in as an analyst. So what our fund structure looks like is we're benchmarked against the S&P 500, which is an index that basically allows you to see how the broader market is doing. So we're trying to beat the market, essentially. And we have 4 groups: education, which does some broader market research, idea generation, that does pitches, qualitative analysis, which does more broad company research into each company that we're looking at, and quantitative analysis, which will do a financial model and some other valuation methods to try to get an idea of what the company's value is. And if you come in as an analyst, you will rotate between those groups. So you kind of get exposure to everything that we do within the equity fund. So you get some really cool skills from kind of all over the place, from financial modeling to market research to pitching stocks. And in terms of what we look like for our meetings, we meet as a fund every single week, every Sunday. It'll be scheduled for 8 p.m. this semester over Zoom. Usually we're in the business school in the conference room. It's really cool, but not this semester. And we discuss the companies that we're looking at investing in, pitches, market conditions, and we go over all of that for about an hour. And then usually the smaller groups will also meet sometime during the week to discuss the work that they're doing. My primary objective for this semester is to search for good companies that we think are lower than their fundamental value because mainly of the macroeconomic conditions. If you've been watching the markets at all, you've seen that the market as a whole, or at least the S&P 500, has rebounded from when it got hit really hard from the coronavirus. It's my belief that there's still a lot of pockets within the S&P 500 and the broader market where you can find a lot of value. So I'm going to have especially the idea generation group, but all of our groups go looking for companies that we think we can get a lot of value out of within the next 3 to 5 years as they rebound from the coronavirus. We reevaluate our portfolio on an as needed basis. That's our part of what our education group's for. And we just want to see what's sticking to our original thesis. But we tend to hold things for a pretty long time. We're not trying to time the market, right? We want to buy things because they have long-term value. And then there's also a few goals I have about collaboration between idea generation and education, as well as getting more analyst participation in the quantitative group. But you'll be exposed to all of that if you were to join us as an analyst. Ryan, do you want to go to the next slide? So this is what our portfolio currently looks like. As you can see, we have stocks from pretty much all different industries, large companies, smaller companies, all over the place. We also have a pretty large cash position, which is one of my goals to start to get rid of that, because you're not going to get much value out of cash. You're not going to get returns from cash. So we want to put that into good companies that we think can give us strong returns. And we also want to continue our education efforts. That's one of our really strong points of the equity fund and GIMG as a whole, that you come in as an analyst and we'll teach you everything you need to know. I feel like my education from GIMG put me way ahead of other people when I started out in the business school and started doing some interviews for different companies in the financial services world. And it's just really good stuff to know if you're interested in this stuff. So that's some really cool stuff that we're doing, and that's a snapshot of our portfolio. And then in terms of the analyst role, the analysts do a lot of kind of the heavy lifting around here, right? You saw that pyramid that Ryan put up. The analysts are the base. They do a lot of the financial modeling. They do a lot of the stock research. They do a lot of the market research. And you're led by a VP. So if you come in as an analyst, you're going to be working very closely with the VP so that they're making sure that you're getting up to speed. But as you kind of figure things out, become more comfortable in the fund, you have a lot of autonomy. You can pitch what you want when you're in the idea group. You can do research on a specific thing if you're interested in that, something you're watching in the markets, whatever. We want to see you be creative because we think that we get more value out of that. In terms of what we're looking for, we're going to teach you how to do all the financial modeling, all the research. We just ask that you are very enthusiastic and that you're willing to put in the work. It's not a massive time commitment. We all have lives outside of GIMG. We're all hard workers in school, but it is a time commitment. So we expect that you are responsive to the work that we ask you to do, and that you do it in an enthusiastic way, because that's how everybody gets the most out of the fund, right? Our portfolio objectives, like I said, we're looking to deploy this large cash position into equity investments. And that's really, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that's the main thing that we're trying to do, look for undervalued companies. And for the analysts, our goal for you this semester, if you were to join, is that you learn the basic financial modeling, stock research, market research skills, so that you have this experience that you can use going forward. We also offer you the chance to build a network, both within Goizueta and beyond. We have a ton of really strong juniors and seniors who have gone through everything that you're going through, and they're happy to help. They want to help younger GIMG members. And we also have people, alumni in some really cool positions at all kinds of different companies, and they will be very responsive to you reaching out, wanting to talk to them, wanting to learn more about their company because you're in GIMG. I personally have felt that network, and it's helped me a ton. So that's obviously not the main reason to join GIMG, but it's a huge benefit. And then, a couple other things. Another goal that we have for you is just to help you build your communication skills, right? Finance is a very people-oriented world. So we expect you in our weekly meetings to do these presentations and do your networking so that you can become a stronger communicator, and that'll help you both in the business school and beyond. And we want you to help us beat our benchmark. That's our main goal as a fund, and everybody has to work to do that, both from the analysts up to myself and Ryan. So that's a little bit about the equity fund. Happy to answer any other questions that you guys have. Reach out to me in my email. It's on our website, and I'm happy to do phone calls with anybody that wants to learn more.
Yeah, awesome. Next, Ben will talk about the fixed income fund. Hopefully Ben, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So you probably don't know this, so that would be helpful, just learning about the fixed income fund. I and a lot of our other members certainly didn't know what fixed income was when we came in. So just want to briefly go over. So fixed income is basically a loan. It's a bond is a loan where you lend a certain amount of money to a company, to a government, to an entity basically, and they pay you interest over the time period of that loan. And at the very end, you receive something called a principal, which is basically the payment that you originally loaned out to that entity. Examples of these are, treasury bills, which are, debt that the U.S. government issues. There's asset-backed securities. There's also, corporate bonds as well. Corporate bonds are basically bonds or loans that a company like Apple or Ford issues on the public market. And I think what's really cool about fixed income is that, unlike equities, it has an asymmetric risk return profile. And so what that really means is that, upon buying a certain security, you already know what your real return will be over 1 year, right? That's called your yield. So let's say you know that you're going to get 5% from buying a Ford bond. So your job as an analyst is really just to see, hey, will we get paid back within 5 years? After 5 years, and is this company solvent? And do they have the strong enough revenues and strong cash flows to support that? So that's why fixed income is a little bit more nuanced and a little bit more unique in its way, and that's definitely one of the appeals of it. So fixing debt in general is really important to the capital markets. Contrary to popular belief, equities actually does not drive the market, drive the economy. It's actually fixed income and bonds. That's what really drives the real economy. And if you look at the first chart, the U.S. bond market is actually $10 trillion more. The market cap is $10 trillion more than the U.S. stock market. And when companies want to merge or acquire other companies, they usually use debt to do that as well. So debt is super important to the capital markets. And if you're familiar with private equity company doesn't just buy a large company or any company and make it private. And they offer up some of their cash as well from their fund, but it's mainly debt to try to invest in other companies. And so I guess what I'm trying to say, I think if you want to learn more about the markets, invest, or just go down any sort of path and running into the concept of fixed income. And so just our portfolio is around $116,000 right now, and as I mentioned earlier, we mainly invest in U.S. Treasuries and corporate bonds, and we are benchmarked just an index for the U.S. bond market, and our specialty is really just focusing Apple.
It's okay. There's a tornado in his region.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Your internet kind of cuts out. It's not great. You cut out after you mentioned that your portfolio is 160 NAV.
Really? Okay, I'm sorry. All right. All right. Basically, I'll make it short. We invest in a lot of securities all across the U.S. U.S. bond market, and corporate bonds is a big part of that. So we do a lot of company analysis. But basically, our fund structure is very similar. Looking at specific industries and doing top-down analysis from that, and ending up picking myself and the chief investment office team, where we're going to work on macro research, kind of highlighting some of the overall themes in the macroeconomic environment, and also doing a spotlight trade too. And so those reports will come out bi-weekly. And I think what's really special about these reports, and it is not only the fact that we might be able to invest in those ideas in the future, but also because when you're applying to a job or you're going into an interview, it's just great to have some sort of deliverable to hand to your interviewer. It's just very professional. Some semester goals is just, we're actually, the new research reports are actually ideas that we're implementing this semester. So trying to see how well that works, and also just streamlining our trade process, making sure that that's efficient. Hardworking. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, you cut out a little bit again there, but it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So in terms of the ideal candidate, we just want a really hardworking team player. We want someone who's really interested in the markets and just really keeps up every single day. Not because they have to, but more because they want to. That's just really important to us, and just also having that passion for researching companies as well, different industries. I guess like the one big difference between equities and fixed income would be just that macro focused. And just want to reiterate that, prior understanding of fixed income is not required in any way, shape or form. We don't expect that at all. It's just, no one really has that exposure when they're coming in. We can go to the next slide. So if you look at the slide, that's kind of just a highlight of our portfolio. One thing to highlight is that we're 50% allocated to corporate bonds. That's just, what I reiterated earlier. Our focus is on doing research in, corporate bonds. And we're also lagging behind the US ag right now a little bit from our 3-month return. That's mainly because we're a little over allocated to corporates and less allocated to US treasuries. And due to the pandemic, luckily we've been in, only investment grade because that's our mandate. And we do have a large part of our portfolio in AAA bonds, which has been good. And so, that just, keeps us in check and makes sure that we mitigate our risk, despite any sort of downturn environment. But yeah, apologies for any cutting.
The irony.
Reach out if you have any questions about, fixed income, about the fund, anything like that. Happy to answer any questions as well.
Awesome. All right, as I'm sure all of us are very familiar with, there's technical difficulties when it comes to Zoom. But thanks, Ben, for giving the presentation. All right, the last thing, or I guess the last branch, public relations branch.
Cool. Okay, so hi everyone. Let me reintroduce myself again. My name is Esther, and I'm the COO of the PR branch. So the public relations branch is basically the face of GIMG. We are the first people others come into contact with, whether you're their collaborators or new students or just people with questions. So if you have messages on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, I'm probably the one who responded, and that's kind of what I do as the COO. So the PR branch has 2 main teams, community involvement and marketing. Obviously, the second group is not recruiting this semester, but the marketing team is looking for new recruits. That being said, the marketing team plays several different roles. Mostly we are the channel of communication, and we do this by maintaining GIMG social media platforms and website. These include LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and our website domain is Squarespace. So the skills that are kind of required to be, not required, but the skills that we use in the marketing team include communications, graphics design, and writing. All 3 of these can be taught, and we are willing to train you. So if you're somebody who's really passionate about marketing but know nothing about it, that's completely fine. Just show your motivation in the application, because that's sort of the drive I'm personally looking for. And I'll go really quickly onto our semester goals. As everything is now virtual, we're looking heavily into social media marketing, and that's my personal forte, so we are doing our best in that. We do have several upcoming plans for our social media platforms, which you will be a part of if you are recruited into the team. For LinkedIn, we are looking into posting articles on GIMG. For Instagram and Facebook, we are looking into sort of optimizing the algorithms of those different social media platforms so we can reach more people. If you choose to join the marketing team, you will probably start on one of our social media platforms. You will be trained in copywriting and graphics design, and we'll just go from there based on what your interests are. As for our ideal candidate, you'll see we would like somebody who is familiar with graphic design and social media. However, again, this is not necessary. As I mentioned before, these are all skills we are capable of teaching. So don't be intimidated when you look at our application and see that there is a portfolio option. There's a reason that it's optional, and that's because your current skill set isn't what's most important when it comes to your application. You can submit a portfolio if you want, and I would just suggest you check our most recent social media posts and maybe mock up a few social media posts based on that. It will be very proactive and you will get bonus points from me, but again, that's not necessary if you really don't know where to start. And the traits we're mostly looking for is motivation and responsiveness. The first one is mostly the reason why we'll want to recruit you, and the second one is kind of just mandatory for a job because, again, we are the channel of communication. You have to be responsive. If I can't reach you when I really need you, that's really going to be a problem within the team. But for the most part, the marketing team is a really chill team. We have our responsibilities, but we're really easygoing and we're willing to help each other out, so don't be too intimidated. And if you have any questions about the application, or if you want me to look at your marketing strategy or portfolio or resume, I am willing to talk to you about it. My contact information is on the GIMG website, and I'll just respond faster if you email me directly, but if you don't want to do that, you can also contact me through our Instagrams, and since I personally monitor that platform, and I'll just respond as fast as possible. And that was a really short presentation, so I will hand things back to Ryan.
No worries. Yeah, we're definitely faster than we were last time. That's good. Just a couple of quick things before we conclude the entire info session. In terms of looking beyond GIMG, this is probably one of the biggest things that I thought was the most helpful thing to me, especially when it came to finding jobs and recruiting. Our GIMG organization, our culture has been something that's extremely unique. And Ben kind of mentioned this earlier. We don't want to find people who are just interested in it, on the Sundays and they come to the fun meetings, but we want to find people who are truly passionate about the markets, such that, just in terms of their hobby and just would like to do for fun. This is obviously involves looking at the markets. Obviously, that's not exclusive. Not to say that you can't have fun doing other things, but what I'm trying to say is a big focus of our organization is really the type of person that we want to take, right? And as you can imagine, these type of really motivated people who are great learners also place really well when it comes to recruiting. We have a lot of alumni at one of the top banks throughout Wall Street, good buy-side firms as well. And so that's something that we really want to emphasize. Members especially are really encouraged to reach out to our previous alumni of GIMG. And we still have extremely strong connections with them today. I remember when I went to New York, it was just very natural for me to get coffee with a couple of them. And they were more than willing to, schedule that meeting and take time out of their day. Because again, if you guys don't know, bankers are working, 70, 80, 90 hours a week. So it really means a lot to them. And it really means a lot to me that they would actually take time out of their day to come out and meet me whenever they're free. And so that's something that I think is a really big emphasis, that, once you're in GIMG and even as you leave, the culture of us being still a big family is still something that's very much prevalent. All right, now the big thing that probably everyone's waiting for in terms of recruiting for our organization. Our recruiting process for investment branch and PR branch is completely separate. So I'll go over the investment branch first. There's two parts to it. First, there's a written application, and this is the part that I can't stress enough, which is there's no background in finance necessary. If any of you guys went on the website and read the letter that I wrote, you guys would know that when I applied to GIMG, I had absolutely no background in finance. And in fact, the pitch that I pitched back then was NVIDIA, and it was perhaps one of the worst pitches that I've seen to this date. And to this day, the past president of GIMG still makes fun of me about it. So it was a really bad pitch. Well, the point is, right, it's not about the pitch. It's about your thought process behind it. It's about your logic. It's about, your motivations. And so the three components to our application is why GIMG, and then we'll see the stock pitch, and then we'll see the industry pitch. It really gives us an opportunity to see how you think, to see how you tackle problems. And the best kind of piece of advice that I could probably give you, there's two pieces of advice here. One is pitch what you know, right? Like, don't go out of your way to pitch something that, you might think sets you apart for the sake of setting you apart. because we've seen people like, go downhill from that front, as in like they think they want to pitch something that's super creative, but they're not, familiar enough with the industry or familiar enough with the stock to back it up. And so that's something that we don't recommend you doing. Second thing is always, think about what, when you think about the pitch, think about what the market's not capturing right now, like where you can really try to get opportunity in terms of, buying the stock, right? Because everyone has access to Google, everyone has access to the resources, but you might be seeing an opportunity that you think is very unique, or the market might be overreacting. And so these are some things that we want to see included in your pitch. The most important thing, however, is that there is no correct pitch. Honestly, I could randomly assign a stock to you guys and then randomly assign you a buy or sell rating on it, and you guys could probably find information to back it up in a reasonable way. And so don't try to like think about, oh, like this is not like incorrect. There's only stuff that's technically incorrect. So for example, if you say the stock is trading at 50 and it's trading at 60, well, that's technically incorrect. But in terms of your reasoning, there's no such thing as a correct pitch, right? And so that's something that hopefully will help you out. Another thing I really want to emphasize is that help will always be available to you. This is something that we really, again, want to make it clear, and that it is not a conflict of interest. It is not detrimental to your application anyway if you reach out to Leah, Ben, or I. And so it's really, and in fact, we encourage you to do so because it gives us an opportunity to see how you think beforehand. Some of our analysts who applied last semester basically kept reaching out to Ben and have Ben review their application, and that was something that was perfectly acceptable, right? And so please, if you have any questions, and I know since many of you guys who are applying might not have a background in finance, I'm sure you guys have questions, feel free to reach out. The second part of our process is the interview process. Now, the interview process obviously is based on the successful completion of your written application portion, but it's 2 interviews. So the first interview is what we call the general interview. The general interview consists of behavioral questions that include stuff like, all right, what are your motivations? What are your experience? Like, are you a culture fit for our organization, right? And the second part of the general interview is what I call intellectual technicals. So they're not technicals that are like, all right, so like what's EBITDA? Like give me your multiples. It's not like that. It's built off of, problem solving and the ability for you to tackle questions. And it's kind of gives us an opportunity to see how you can reason based on what you already know. And so that's kind of the technical, quote unquote, part of that general interview. The second interview is something that we're doing new this semester, which is a stock pitch. Now, in the past, we realized that when we go over interviews, the general interview, we kind of run out of time for you to be able to talk about behavioral questions, interview technicals, as well as your stock and industry pitches. So we decided to separate it. It's a 3 to 5 slide deck maximum, right? Pitch for a stock pitch. It's really simple. Honestly, three slides is perfectly enough. It's just thesis, right? Your risks and your catalyst, which is basically how you're supposed to write the stock pitch anyways. It can be the stock pitch in your written application, or if you're feeling, really courageous, you can pitch something entirely new. We're perfectly okay with that as well. And essentially, after you pitch that, which will take about 5-10 minutes, we will ask follow-up questions. And obviously, more details will follow if you get to this stage. But essentially, that's what it's going to look like. The PR branch has a different kind of application. Esther can talk about this a little bit more and afterwards, but essentially it's an online application, right? Applications, everything's on our website. Applicants can choose to attach a portfolio. The interview is mostly behavioral. Again, it's looking at your attitude, looking at your experience, looking at if you're fit within our culture. And again, after that is successful, we'll see if we can ask for a deliverable from you. And that is essentially a given task where you're either expected to design a Instagram post or a flyer for the theoretical event, or come up with a marketing strategy, and then pitch it to our COO to see whether or not that's something that it speaks to your abilities. And so that essentially all of the information there will be emailed to you directly again upon successful completion of the previous stages. Now, finally, just a quick introduction to the timeline. Again, all of our applications are available at our website, right? And so if you haven't checked our website now, please do. Here's a little kind of quick snippet, right, of our website, and on the top right is just apply, and so you can go ahead and do that. One thing I want to emphasize is you cannot apply to both the investment branch and the PR branch. So if you apply to both, we will only consider you for one, which will most likely be the PR branch actually. So if you don't want to apply to the PR branch, then don't. If you don't want to apply to the investment branch, then don't. And beneath here is a quick kind of summary of our timeline. One thing you notice is as applications close on the 4th, interviews happen the next week, which means obviously like whether or not you pass on to an interview, you should know within the next 2 days, right? In fact, once you submit applications, like a couple hours later, we're probably going to start reviewing the applications and then to be done with it. And so we're trying to get back to you as fast as possible. And our first meeting is on September 13th. Probably not at 11 a.m., but we'll send information out for the analysts who make it. And so, yeah, that will be updated. All right. But just to conclude, these are just a couple of benefits of GIMG. And again, like above all else, right? Like I'd say that everyone at GIMG are really friends. Again, Ben and I, as well as Jack, we play Mahjong on the weekends. I play poker with people in GIMG. We get like go. Obviously, it's going to look a little different because we're virtual. But in the past, after the meeting, we go hit up the Duck, right, or go to B-Libs, just sit in front of Bloomberg and just talk, right? And everyone does their own work. Like again, it's a really friendly environment. And the opportunity to be able to really learn and to really develop is something that really emphasized. But the key part, and I think the organization wouldn't be the same without it, is our members, right? This is why we spend so much effort in terms of trying to find the right people for our organization, because it's just that crucial, right? And so again, that's just a quick introduction to GIMG. We can take a couple questions now moving forward. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening. And again, as we start asking these questions, if you have to go, feel free. But if you want to stay, we're happy to again take questions. And again, you can ask questions through DMing either Ben, Liam, or Esther, or you can just ask them in general, or raise your hand or something.
So I have a question about the training process for new members.
Absolutely.
I heard there's a process called GTAP.
That's right.
And I was wondering what that entails.
Good question. So actually, I should have mentioned it. My bad, I forgot to mention it. Essentially, GTAP is our program. So in the past, we have member education that's within our organization. It's internal, right? But this semester, we're doing something different, as in we're opening our member education program such that everyone can at least attend, right? And that's what GTAP stands for. It stands for GIMG Technical Academy Program. So all of our analysts are required to go through a training, and this is kind of a public event for our training. On our website, you can find an entire kind of section dedicated to it. Essentially, it's still kind of early in the process. It won't happen until at least mid to late September. So more information will come out as we go along. But that's what the program is essentially about. You can go on and check out our curriculum. The person who leads it, his name's Kevin, wonderful person, super experienced, great guy, yeah. All right, someone asked, how much time will there be between our first interview and our stock pitch? Oh, I also wanted to mention, it's not that one is a kind of first round and the other is a second round. They're both weighted equally. The time, right now, I'm thinking they're going to be 2 different days, although that is subject to change. We'll send out the interview schedule sometime soon, or I guess for those who get to the interview process. But it won't be right after each other. I think that's kind of intense for you guys. So it's probably going to be on day 1, or a Monday, Tuesday, we'll do general interviews, and on Wednesday, Thursday, we'll do stock pitch interviews.
And for the stock pitch, if you get chosen for an interview, do you automatically have the option? You're automatically doing a stock pitch, correct? It's not like
that's right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And so you can start working on that right. You can start working on that right when you know that you have the interview. You can use what you did in your application or do a new one. It's up to you.
Yeah. All right.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Brooke. Yeah.
Sorry. During the BVA club fair, you guys, I know someone mentioned that you could apply to the fixed income and the equity fund, so you could check both options on the application. But I was working on my stock pitch, and I didn't know if I was allowed to do something that would be if I'm applying to both funds, what type of stock am I, or bond or whatever am I allowed to write about? Is there it doesn't really matter if we do either one, or would you prefer one over the other?
No, in fact, I don't think anyone here pitched a bond, including the VPs in fixed income, right? And so what I'm trying to say is, in terms of the application itself, right, the stock pitch itself, feel free to pitch anything you want. Even though you can preference which one you want to join, ultimately we will decide whether to place you, right? And then, Liam, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, I guess have an idea going into the interview which you're interested in, just in case we ask you, and have decent reasoning behind it. But you don't have to just apply for one or pick whether you're doing a stock or a bond pitch with the focus of being in one over the other.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
no problem. All right, is there a typical range of analysts taken or during a semester, and will that number be increased/decreased this semester? Liam, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so someone asked this yesterday as well. We don't have like quotas for a certain amount of people. In the past, it's usually been around 4 or 5 analysts per semester. I don't expect that to change too much, but at the same time, I'll take whoever I feel like is qualified and who I think will add a lot to the organization. So if that turns out to be more than 5, then great. That means we had a lot of great people interview. If it turns out to be a little less, then that's fine too. So don't be discouraged by thinking we're only taking 3 people or whatever. We're gonna take you if we feel like you'd be a good fit.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, don't feel like because of COVID we're not doing what we should be doing to our organization. We're still going strong, and we still want to get the best talent possible. And so, yeah, don't worry about it. Like COVID really, aside from moving our club virtually, it has not really affected our club. It will not affect it. All right. If I wanted to apply to investment, should I contact Liam? All right. So yeah, absolutely. You should contact Liam for equities, contact Ben for fixed income. All of our contact information is on our website. In fact, like emails to our actual GIMG exec Gmail is also there. You can schedule a coffee chat with Liam. You can schedule a coffee chat with Ben. You can schedule a coffee chat with me, as well as Esther. Actually, Esther, I'm not sure if we got that set up for you, but you know, like you could talk to us, reach out to us at any time. So that's something that's very available to you. All right. Any additional questions? Oh, and Ben mentioned he did not pitch a bond when he interviewed either. Yeah. So again, like in terms of the actual pitch itself, like it's not that big of a deal. As long as your reasoning is sound and what you have is valid.
I have a quick clarification question, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
So you mentioned some of the volunteer work that GIMG does regarding financial literacy. I know obviously COVID has greatly impacted that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have currently plans or how you're going to go about continuing those efforts in the upcoming semester at least?
You mean this coming semester or the next semester?
Either one, I guess. We don't know how long it will last.
The reason why it's very hard for us to do that right now is because the high schools that we go to, they don't have access to technology as well as we do. And so bringing it on a virtual format is a little difficult because they don't have the receiving end of the technology, right? But that being said, all the infrastructure is set up. We haven't lost any of our partnerships. In fact, our relationship with them is still very strong, which means by the time that it's become available to us, and obviously their school board also has to make a decision whether or not it's okay to bring us on, or we're even going to come to Emory. And so once everything's okay, right, like I don't anticipate us having any delay in terms of bringing everything back to normal. Obviously, we'll be well protected with masks and everything. But in terms of this semester, unfortunately, community involvement will be put on hold. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. No problem. Yeah. All right. Well, if any of you guys have more specific questions, we'll stay. Great turnout. I say we have well over 100 people show up to both of our meetings. So that's definitely something that's very encouraging for all of us. And again, we'll stay behind. The executive board will stay behind and answer some lingering questions. And everyone else, like, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask. If not, you always be free to go. I'm going to stop the recording here. So